stream in now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, if not early evening, Cabinet and people online. Welcome. My apologies, I cannot join you in person. I'm in Monmouth at the moment and have been with our MP, Catherine Fuchs, and the Secretary of State for Wales, Joe Stevens, looking at the impacts of the aftermath of Storm Claudia on our businesses and also our residents, but also to show them the incredible resilience of the people of Monmouth and in fact our other communities that have been affected by Storm Claudia. Before we begin, Cabinet, there's a statement I would like to make on behalf of the Council. We recognise the severity of the impact of Storm Claudia on communities in Monmouthshire, and in particular Monmouth, Skentreth and Abergavenny. Our first thoughts are with the families who have needed to leave their homes and continue to suffer from not knowing how and when they can return. My heart goes out for him. This is not just a physical disaster. This is a trauma that was going to affect families, adults and children for a very long time. We think also of those many businesses who are working tirelessly to get their businesses back into operation, knowing that they are losing trade at this most important time of year. And I am in awe, and we all collectively commend all those residents who have volunteered to support their neighbours and their community. Their contribution has been above and beyond and invaluable, and it is a testament to the spirit of our county. We thank all those in our public services who have worked tirelessly over the past few days to support residents and businesses, arranging accommodation, pumping out floodwaters, clearing away the many tons of damaged debris. And we commend the work of Monmouthshire Town Council in supporting the town and in creating the fund of voluntary contributions, which they will use to support the most effective. All of us, and I know Cabinet, many of you have been to your own communities and come to Monmouth. All of us will have our own memories and stories of the support that has been given, the sheer overwhelming sense of humanity helping each other, whether it's done professionally or in a spirit of neighbourhood, because that, as I often say to you, that is how we behave in Monmouthshire. As we move on to recovery and the aftermath, we are continuing to talk to each affected business and many residents to gain as full an understanding as possible of the many needs that arise from this flood. Following our continuing discussions with Welsh Government ministers, I am able to announce that we will be able to develop a scheme of relief of council tax payments for residents affected and non-domestic rates for businesses affected, as well as a scheme of grants to help compensate costs which have resulted from the floods. We will provide further details on this financial support by the end of this week. We will also review the flood protection that is in place in each of our communities and reach conclusions on what can be done to develop that protection, even as the incidence of severe weather events increases. You'll be aware that will take time, and it is my intention to bring together Welsh Government, Natural Resource Wales, the Council and other stakeholders in undertaking that review. It is my intention to report the conclusions of that review to full Council in the coming months. As we are so aware, our towns and communities in Monmouthshire are extraordinarily resilient and supportive of each other. Already in Monmouth and in Abergavenny and in other parts of the county, our businesses are open. And I encourage everyone who has witnessed the impact of these floods to come and visit. You will be very welcome. Monmouth is a town which has been most affected, and it's a wonderful place to prepare for Christmas. The car parks in the town will all be free until the end of December. Thank you, Cabinet. We will now return to our normal business. Do we have any apologies for absence?
No, no apology.
Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
Cabinet, I would draw your attention to the minutes from Place Scrutiny Committee of 22nd of October and the minutes from the Performance and Overview Committee of the 18th of November. As usual, I am very grateful to Councillor Neil for providing an update, and in this case very swiftly, for your consideration and noting. And I'm also grateful to Councillor Jane Lucas from Place Scrutiny Committee for bringing your attention to the minutes of that committee in October. We can now move on to item 4, medium-term financial plan update. Councillor Callard, I believe that's you.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening, everybody. I'm pleased to present the 6-monthly update of the Council's medium-term financial plan. This report provides an important overview of our emerging financial position, updates the assumptions that underpin our planning for 2026-2027, and sets out the broader context in which next year's budget will be developed. The latest update projects a budget shortfall of £11.5 million for 2026-2027, with the gap rising to £37.4 million over the medium term. Although these figures remain significant, it's worth noting that they represent a modest improvement from the earlier forecast, reflecting refined inflation assumptions and updated service pressures. The financial environment in which we are operating continues to be extremely challenging. Persistent inflation, increasing service demands, particularly within social care and education, and the ongoing effect of the cost of living crisis continue to shape our financial landscape. Supply chain pressures and wider economic uncertainty, driven by both national and global developments, also add to the volatility in future planning. Despite these pressures, the Council has demonstrated strong financial stewardship. Last year's budget successfully absorbed over £17 million in service pressures, and our in-year position for 2025-2026 is currently more favourable than in previous years. Should that positive position be maintained to year-end, it will help stabilise our reserves and strengthen our starting point as we plan for 2026-2027. However, significant risks remain, particularly around increasing school deficits and the absence of any multi-year funding certainty. Updates from the forthcoming UK autumn budget and the provisional local government settlement will be crucial in shaping the next stage of our modelling. Looking forward, the scale of the financial challenge means that traditional efficiency measures won't be enough by themselves. We'll continue our reform of our services, targeted savings and evidence-based prioritisation within our services. The focus must remain on sustainability, protecting our essential services, and ensuring that our community and corporate plan objectives continue to guide decision-making. This report sets the foundation for the work ahead, providing clarity on the financial gap, the assumptions that drive it, the external factors influencing our outlook, and the timetable for developing a balanced budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callard. Cabinet, do you have any observations or questions for Councillor Callard? Councillor John, I can't actually see you online, but I can see you're in online. I believe you have a question. Welcome, Councillor John.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Good afternoon, everyone. And firstly, Leader, can I just thank you for your statement and associate myself and my group with your comments. It's been absolutely devastating, the scenes we've seen across the county over the weekend, and the way in which the communities have come together has been so inspiring. I think the generosity and kindness of complete strangers, number of people who have been desperate to go and help, and many of whom, perhaps not in a position to be generous, but perhaps aren't particularly wealthy themselves, but want to support their our fellow citizens. It's just been so inspiring. Really pleased to hear that we're going to have these grant schemes up and running before the end of this week. But I really hope that the council will be administering those schemes. The last thing we want is for people to go through lengthy admission procedures with Welsh
Councillor
Government.
John.
So
I couldn't agree more,
that-
and rest assured that we will be administering those schemes. You are
Excellent.
right.
That's really
and
good
you are
news.
right. I think we, not just ourselves, but the country have taken inspiration from the behaviour of people in Monmouthshire, and particularly around Monmouth. It's been absolutely inspiring. Your question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that, because the last thing we want to see is any delay, any unnecessary delay in getting this money out the door. So thank you for that. Turning to the report, Councillor Callard, thank you for it. Your decisions over the last 3.5 years have not stopped the rise in school budgets, set to hit a combined £7 million this year. That's totally unprecedented. It's compromising the ability of head teachers to focus on driving up standards. What steps are you going to take to stop the deficit continuing to rise and actually ensure that schools have got the resources they need?
Thank you for the question, Councillor John. We've been aware for some time that our school, the deficit within our school budgets has been climbing. We've been working with the schools to address that. And in fact, I think there's only one school remaining that does not have a recovery plan in place. We're approaching it from two angles, really. One of which is that we're working with the schools to put recovery plans in place. We're making sure those plans are reasonable, in that we're not asking for anything to change too quickly, so we can make sure that schools have time to respond to the budget pressures that we're all facing. In some cases, the recovery plans, they are over multiple years. And on the other side, as we saw in our budget last year, we managed to put an additional £1 million into our schools to increase their funding from that side, which I think was most welcome. We're going to continue to work with our schools in order to help them with their financial resilience. We knew that this deficit was going to grow in the short term while we stabilise the position and work with the school leaders, which has transpired. And in the medium to longer term, we would expect that deficit to shrink. I also think that, our head teachers in schools are, very capable, and they are also responsible for delivering against the budgets that those schools have been set, and we will continue to work with them to do so.
Okay, thank you. And what about reserves? They're getting to a dangerously low level.
Yeah, excuse me,
We've seen...
Councillor John.
Yes, Leader.
I believe you asked one question.
Yes, I submitted a second question.
This is not a debate.
No, I submitted a second question, Leader.
That's not what I've got on my list. Apologies, Councillor John. Go ahead if you did.
Okay.
You can imagine that I've been out and about since that's Friday.
Entirely understand. No problem at all. So, Councillor Callard, I also wanted to ask about reserves, and they're reaching a dangerously low level. We've had a reminder this weekend that events do happen. What is the Cabinet doing about this dangerously low level of reserves, please?
Thank you for the question, Councillor John. You'll be aware that in our last few budget rounds, and as laid out in our medium-term financial strategy, we're not using reserves to support our revenue spending. We haven't done so since 2023, nearly 3 years ago. We are in a process at the moment of maintaining our reserve level at least 5% of our revenue budget, which is recognised as the kind of minimum safe level, which we'd like to hold our reserves at. You'll also remember that in this year's budget, we put in a contingency of £850,000, which as of month 6 remains available to the council to respond to in-year budget pressures as required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John. Cabinet, you'll note the recommendations are to note rather than to agree. There's 3 of them, which Councillor Callard has already brought to your attention.
Leader, I'm not sure if it also came through, but I know Councillor Taylor submitted a question or 2, I think, on this report. I don't know if Councillor Howarth is here to ask those on Councillor Taylor's behalf.
Thank you. You've reminded me, Councillor Callard. As you're aware, I've been with our businesses and residents throughout the weekend. Councillor Taylor unfortunately did not submit the questions to me. She submitted them to the Chief Executive. I can understand that we all have busy times, so I did remember to write to her to say I accept it was just a minor mistake on her behalf, and I would therefore be willing to accept them. Unfortunately, because they weren't sent to me, they're not in my system.
It's been a busy week. It's been a busy week, Marianne.
That's right. So, Councillor Howarth, if you are here to ask the questions, I recall one of them was about our response to the flood. I hope our statement has covered that one off. If it is about our response, then I will take that question, Ben. But please, Councillor Howarth.
Thank you, Leader, and good evening, Cabinet. And just reiterating everything you said, Leader, on the past events of the last few days. Just thank everyone for their efforts, and the people of Monmouthshire, really. We all know that we are resilient, and we all know that we will pull through and get on with things that we have to get on with. I totally endorse Councillor John and yourself's statements on that, and wish everybody a speedy recovery in making sure that we get through to Christmas and businesses start to pick up trade, and people start to get their lives back together. But a very sad time for many, but I'm sure we'll get through it. Yeah, my 2 questions from Councillor Taylor on agenda item number 5. I think Ben, as the revenue budget, I think Ben has just reiterated through Councillor John there about reserves. And the last question is all to do with the funding reference to the Welsh Government. And I think you made it very clear, Leader, that hopefully by the end of this week we should have some answers on that funding. Is that right, Ben, on them 2 questions I do have in front of me? Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Because I know Councillor John's made the point about the reserves. I know it's something we as a group have been pushing on every budget meeting we have with the Cabinet. We are extremely concerned that reserves were forecast to be built, and that has not been happening. So I assure you, we as an independent group will be keeping an eye on what we're doing with the reserves and how we can build them up, because 5% is virtually running on the threshold and is too low. We need to be building that up. Thank you, Leader.
Over to you, Councillor Callard.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth. I agree that but building up our reserves is a prudent thing to do. It has to be balanced with the demands across our services. Councillor John asked a question about our education funding as well. We need to take these decisions on balance. I would say, your point about reserves not being rebuilt, in keeping them at 5% of our revenue budget. As our revenue budget grows, the reserves are growing in cash terms, but not as a percentage of our revenue budget, if you see what I mean. I know it's maybe it's splitting hairs, but I take your point on board. And on the topic of funding coming forward from Welsh Government, I'll refer you to the leader's statement at the start of the meeting that we expect to have further information towards the end of the week.
Thank you, Councillor Callard. With that, I will move us on to item 5 and back to you, the 2025-26 revenue budget financial update.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to present the 2025-2026 revenue budget financial update, which provides a clear and timely overview of our current financial position, the progress made since the first forecast of the year, and the key risks and challenges that remain ahead. At the outset, I'm pleased to report a forecast underspend of £29,000 at Update 2, a marked improvement of £1.323 million since our initial position earlier in the year. This represents a full reversal of the previously projected £533,000 overspend and had allowed us to restore the £761,000 of contingency back into the budget. This turnaround is a positive and welcome development, reflecting strengthened financial management and the effective use of grant funding, particularly within social care, where maximisation of grant income has been a key factor in improving the forecast. Whilst this favourable movement demonstrates encouraging progress, it's important to recognise the wider financial environment in which we are operating. Demand for high-cost services, especially in adults and children's social care and additional learning needs, remains volatile. Inflationary pressures continue to exceed budget assumptions, and we are seeing a slight decline in debt recovery rates, particularly within council tax and social care. These ongoing factors pose challenges to our financial resilience. The report also highlights pressures within schools, where the cumulative reserves deficit is forecast to increase to over £7 million by year end. 18 of our 35 schools are expected to be in deficit, and recovery plans are now required to ensure effective corrective action is progressed. Despite these challenges, there are several areas of operational strength contributing to our improved position. Underspends within waste, decarbonisation and other service areas, alongside continued vacancy management and improved council tax collection, have helped offset pressures elsewhere in the system. The capital programme remains broadly on track, with expenditure forecast of £59.79 million and only minor variance reported. As we move forward, the focus remains firmly on financial discipline, delivering planned savings and addressing underlying cost pressures, many of which have the potential to repeat into 2026-2027 if not fully resolved. Our task is not just to balance this year's budget, but to strengthen the council's long-term financial sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from Cabinet? I'm just checking, Councillor John, that I've got questions from you and don't unintentionally.
Not on this item, Leader.
Yeah.
Councillor Birch has got her hand up to speak.
Apologies, Councillor Birch. Please go ahead.
I think not really a question so much as just to acknowledge all the immense amount of hard work that has gone into reconfiguring services to achieve greater efficiency rather than cuts across the authority. That's not easy to reconfigure services whilst continuing to provide an excellent service. And I think that's been across the board, certainly within housing, within culture, where we're not cut the numbers of events, but rather expanded them, and the same in leisure and in social care as well, where the reconfiguration of services has been undertaken at pace and continues to be so.
Point well, pardon me. Point well made, Councillor Birch. Again, the Cabinet, we're asked to note rather than agree. And again, Councillor Callard has taken us through the key points. I don't think it's necessary to read out the points for noting. Thank you very much, Councillor Callard. I will now move us on to the next item on the agenda, which is myself. I would ask Grace on this cabinet and would bring in Matt Gatehouse to present this item. I am on top of it in terms of the process that we've been through, but Matt can bring you up to date on where we are.
Yes, thanks very much, Leader, and I can certainly attest to the Leader being on top of this in terms of the extent of involvement she's had in this and the direction from Leader and Cabinet to shape this piece of work. So this is the opportunity to approve the scope for the panel performance assessment that will be conducted in end of February, last week of February 2026. For the benefit of those watching at home or listening in, the panel performance assessment is a requirement placed on all local authorities in Wales as part of the Local Government and Elections Act 2021. It supplements our annual self-assessment process and requires authorities to put in place once every electoral cycle an independent panel to look at the effectiveness of the authority's arrangements using a scope produced by the authority itself. That falls to Cabinet to produce that draft scope. That scope is contained in the paper for approval today. The paper also asks just to endorse the approval or the appointment of the independent chair of the panel. That independent chair is Bev Smith, a former local authority chief executive, as we write, currently chair of the Boundary Commission here in Wales as well, with considerable experience in public service. And following the paper, we'll be working to appoint other panel members to oversee and work on that scope in February 2026. There's also a role for Governance and Audit Committee in this to ensure that the learning from the panel is taken into account. And I have met with the Chair of Governance and Audit and Councillor Eason, the Deputy, and that committee will be taking a paper in December just to share that information with them and to ensure they're appropriately briefed ahead of the assessment taking place in February.
Thank you very much, Matt. Cabinet, I take this process, the panel performance assessment, very seriously, as we all do. It is that point of independent review, and it's an independent review that we will take the approach of offering hospitality to critical friends. As part of my preparation for this, I was appointed to the panel performance assessment of Rhondda Cynon Taf back in October, both so I could offer collegiate support to our local government family, but also so I could gain proper insight with which to support us as a council as we move through to this in February. And it was a really beneficial learning experience for me, and certainly allowed me to see the tone that we could set, that Rhondda Cynon Taf set, which was encouraging councillors as well as our externally appointed members of Governance and Audit, for example, but also Standards Committee, to take part in what was a collective reflection, and our partners, town councils, but also in the third sector and other parts of our public sector family and private sector that we work with across the county. And as I was there for a week, towards the end, what I was hearing from councillors as well as some of the partners was a sense that it was quite cathartic, and also sometimes the word therapeutic was used by some councillors, because we do in our busy lives, and that's the same for officers, get very little opportunity to reflect on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and where there are reasons for celebration and reasons for improvement. So I, for one, am very much looking forward to our panel performance assessment. Are there any observations? We have 3 recommendations.
Yeah, Miriam. Sorry.
Yeah.
Councillor Griffiths.
Sorry, Councillor Griffiths. It's
That's
because
okay.
you're just
I've
one
no
little
idea how
square among
to,
many.
hybrid meetings are sometimes beyond me. So
Really
I
beyond
just
me
want
at
to-
this point.
just want to, not so much a question, share a reflection. In a previous life, I was involved in the legislation that created this round of peer assessments, panel performance assessments. And it reminds me that what we were replacing was an experience over many decades of corporate assessments being done by auditors, Wales Audit Office, Audit Commission, or whoever. And what I found unsatisfactory about that was that it encouraged the local authorities who were being subject to the assessment to take a very defensive approach, to ward off criticism, and encouraging that sort of relationship of warding off the outsider made it a not particularly fruitful exercise. The auditors may not have been learning what they needed to learn. The local authorities themselves were more interested in defending themselves than from learning from the exercise. And I just hope as we go into this that we can take the opportunity not to be defensive, but to regard it as a learning exercise where outsiders can come and share their knowledge with us, share their thoughts, not just where we're succeeding, but where we could do better. And we have the openness to learn from that. That will require a maturity on our behalf. And with our colleagues, Councillor John and Councillor Howarth, I think it'll also require the same maturity across the council, that the exercise is not seen as an opportunity to pick holes, if you like, in whoever's responsible for this, that, or other at the moment, that we all regard it as a collective learning exercise and use the inputs of who's ever on the panel to allow that to happen. But I don't know if that's a question, it's a reflection.
And I'm glad you made it, Councillor Griffiths, because it is a learning exercise and we should see it in that way. We know across the council how important it is to have good scrutiny, to be held account, and within that, to have independent voices who can allow us to learn and critically reflect on what we're doing and the impact it has on residents, businesses, officers, and the council itself. And you're right to remind us of the mindset and the approach we should take when we have our own panel performance assessment in February. We have 3 recommendations, panel, and on this case, can I record rather than watch you just waggle your hands? So the 3 recommendations which we'll take collectively. approve the draft scope for the panel performance assessment as set out in this report, to confirm the appointment of Beverly Smith as chair of the panel and instruct the Chief Officer for People Performance and Partnerships to finalise the remaining panel membership in consultation with the leader and WLGA, and to agree the proposed timing for the assessment as a week commencing the 23rd of February 2026. Councillor Griffiths. Just say agree.
Say yes.
Oh, yes. Yes. Wholeheartedly, enthusiastically.
Councillor Sandals.
Yes.
Councillor Birch.
Looking forward to it.
Councillor Wright.
Yes, indeed.
Councillor Callard.
Yes, I agree.
Councillor Maybe. Definitely.
Yes, I agree, definitely.
And Councillor Chandler.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. So if we move on to our next item, it's the inclusion strategy and additional learning needs policy. And I think that's over to you, Councillor Wright.
Yes, thank you, Leader. So I am presenting Monmouthshire's new inclusion strategy and our updated additional learning needs policy, together with our accompanying EOTAS policy, EOTAS being education other than at school. Please do stop me if I use any acronyms that I haven't explained. So our EOTAS policy sits as an appendix to the ALN policy, and these set the strategic and operational direction for how we support children and young people across all our schools and settings. I'm asking colleagues to endorse the inclusion strategy and our ALN policy, and I'm seeking your agreement that these are fit for purpose and aligned with the expectations of the learning place theme in our community and corporate plan. These policies represent a significant step forward in building a more coherent, equitable and ambitious inclusion system for Monmouthshire. They set out the actions needed to strengthen early intervention, improve attendance, reduce exclusion, enhance the quality and consistency of additional learning provision, and ensure that every learner, regardless of need, circumstance or background, can thrive and feel a strong sense of belonging in their local school community. These strategies have been shaped through extensive engagement and collaborative working involving a wide range of partners and stakeholders. These include, but are not limited to, head teachers, Alenkos from all Monmouthshire schools, the Inclusion Service, our Educational Psychology Service, Social Care and Health colleagues, the Regional School Improvement Service, early years partners and representatives of vulnerable learner groups. And crucially, the voices of parents, carers and children and young people have informed the development of these policies through consultation, person-centred planning activity and participation work across our services. The breadth of engagement has helped to ensure that strategies are ambitious, but also grounded in the real experiences of the learners that they're designed to support. The inclusion strategy and the ALN policy have already been considered by the Council's People Scrutiny Committee back at its meeting on the 18th of February this year, when I was chair of that committee, actually. And the feedback provided by members then has been incorporated into our final version and results in a stronger and more robust set of policies. The inclusion strategy provides the overarching vision and framework for an inclusive education system guided by principles of equity, early intervention, collaboration and participation. The updated ALN policy ensures that we're meeting our statutory responsibilities under the OWLNET Act and delivering clear, consistent, person-centred support for children and young people with additional learning needs from early years right through to post-16. The EOTAS policy, which is also presented for Cabinet's endorsement, sets out how we secure suitable, high-quality education for learners who can't attend school due to health needs, exclusions, other complex circumstances. It reinforces our commitment to reintegrating learners into school wherever possible, but also ensures that any alternative provision is safe, effective, and connected to learners' broader plan. So collectively, these policies provide, I think, a clear and confident direction for Monmouthshire's work on inclusion. They demonstrate our commitment to delivering a high-quality education system where every learner can succeed, where our schools are supported and equipped to meet a wide range of needs. And I welcome any questions that members might have.
Yes, please.
Go for it, Councillor Sandal.
Enthusiastic councillor.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Wright. I'm really pleased to hear this, and it's fantastic to hear how it's going to improve outcomes for all our learners. Can I ask how it will specifically impact our more vulnerable learners, especially children who are in care, please?
Yeah, of course. So supporting children who are looked after previously looked after learners, it has been a key priority in developing these policies, and there is now a much stronger, more consistent framework in place for these particularly vulnerable young people. The updated Children Looked After policy guidance does set out very clear expectations for every school to be CLA ready. And that means that they understand the experiences that many CLA learners bring with them. They take a proactive, trauma-informed approach to meeting their needs. And then this does include removing both practical and less visible barriers to participation, a sensitivity around identity and privacy for children who are looked after, and also maintaining an ethos of emotional safety and belonging. A major improvement, I think, is the strengthened use of a personal education plan. Our PEPs are now much more closely integrated with the wider ALN and inclusion processes, which ensures that they are genuinely person-centred documents. So regular reviews, there are well-defined targets, there's close involvement from social workers, there's a designated CLA lead in our schools, and education professionals will all help to ensure that the plan is meaningful and that the learner's progress is carefully monitored. The work has also significantly enhanced our collaboration across services. So our inclusion service, educational psychology, ALN statutory officers, social services and early help teams now work more closely together to provide a holistic, joined up support. And this is particularly important, I think, for learners who are placed in Monmouthshire by other local authorities, because the new framework strengthens information sharing and joint planning in that sort of situation. Another positive development is the improved training, networking and support for our designated CLA leads through regular forums, links with the School Improvement Service. These leads can now benefit from ongoing professional learning, opportunities to share good practice, get direct support from our local authority officers. And this helps to ensure that schools have both the expertise and also the confidence to respond effectively to the needs of children who are looked after. So overall, I think the strengthened strategy places a much clearer emphasis on early intervention, on relationship-based practice, and, as I say, multi-agency working. So it ensures that our CLA learners are supported consistently, compassionately, but also with high expectations. It reinforces the Council's wider corporate parenting responsibilities by embedding those learners' needs firmly within the core of our inclusion and ALN policy. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I think you've answered it really, really fully, and I really welcome this improvement in how we, our children looked after are educated. I think it's brilliant news. Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Councillor.
Indeed, you did, Councillor Wright. It's hugely. I can only echo what Councillor Sanders is saying, and bring in Councillor Maybe.
Sorry, it's one of those days, isn't it? Sticky mute button. Yeah, I don't know whether this might be asking some of the same question, but can you tell us a bit more about how these policies will strengthen the consistency and quality of support across all our schools?
Of course, Councillor. I love to give you some extra detail. So I think one of the most significant achievements of this work is that it does bring a much higher level of consistency, transparency and quality assurance to the way that our schools support learners with additional needs and barriers to learning. Historically, our schools have worked in slightly different ways when addressing these challenges, and that reflects their differences in size, in staffing, in their local context. But the new framework will provide a single coherent county-wide system which sets clear expectations while still recognising that each school is a unique community. So there are several key elements to this. Our comprehensive ALN quality assurance framework means that we now have a structured approach to quality assurance, and that will operate at school, cluster and local authority level. It will include systematic checks on the quality of one-page profiles and our learners' individual development plans, consistency reviews across clusters to reduce variability, cross-school moderation, which will involve our Elenkos, our educational psychologists and our inclusion officers, to produce a transparent reporting of our strengths, any gaps and any training needs. And this is the first time that Monmouthshire has had such a formalised collaborative approach to monitoring ALN provision, and it should greatly increase the quality and reliability of the support that we provide. Sets out clearly what universal plus, targeted and specialist provision look like. And that should help to ensure that we have a shared graduated response model across all our settings. So that will mean that classroom strategies are consistent, interventions are chosen based on evidence, support escalates in a planned and appropriate way, and decisions about individual development plans are based on the same threshold criteria in every school. So families will be able to see much more consistency in what support looks like wherever their child attends school. And the strategy will provide stronger tools for person-centred planning, which I know I mentioned person-centred planning already, but it'll focus on the needs of the individual learner, as all schools now use, as I say, a consistent one-page profile, short-term targets, learner voice work, and a regular review and development of IDPs. And this means that there are clearer goals for learners, better communication with parents, high-quality reviews, and better, this is really important, better continuity when children move between schools or between key stages. Through our SRB guidance, our specialist resource-based guidance, our EOTAS policy, our post-16 strategy and the inclusion strategy itself, we do now have a whole system approach that should improve alignment between universal, targeted and specialist provision. Our schools can have confidence that there are clear pathways for learners whose needs escalate. Expectations for reintegration and transition are transparent, that roles and responsibilities are consistent across providers, and that specialist support is better connected to our mainstream provision. Because the strategy commits us to county-wide professional learning linked to the quality assurance findings, we should be able to target our training to where it's most needed. Elenkos will be part of a structured network with regular opportunities to learn from one another. It's important to remember that schools have been at the heart of shaping these policies. So the aim is to build confidence and capacity in a really supportive and collaborative way. There's a clear shared understanding of what good provision looks like, and then how we will measure progress, get progress against that. So in summary, sorry, this has been a long answer. In summary, this policy does give us a more consistent and equitable system where high quality support is something that every child can expect, regardless of the school they attend. And it should ensure clarity and confidence for schools and families and the best possible outcomes for our learners.
Councillor Maybe, you've got...
That's really good, thank you.
We know, don't we, Councillor Wright, from the moment the administration took over, that improving outcomes for every single child from the day they were born onwards was a very important part of what we did. It's so good to know that this has been brought together through careful evidence-based development as a whole system approach. It will have an impact on other areas of the council as well, as you've illustrated, and I can see that Councillor Callard is eager to come in.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you for bringing the report, Councillor Wright. You know, as others have said, I do feel like it's an important report. I wondered if you could expand a little bit on how this strategy ensures that children, young people, and their families have a real voice in shaping council services.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Callard. So as part of the new framework, there has been a development of participation guidance and best practice which has formalised our commitment to meaningful engagement with children, young people and families. This policy is grounded in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Additional Learning Needs Code and the National Participation Standards. It does set out clear expectations for how children's voices are gathered during development of IDPs, during reviews and during transition planning. There are a range of participation methods used to ensure accessibility, and this has included focus groups, individual conversations, and co-production activities with approaches tailored to learners who might otherwise find it difficult to express their views. There's a requirement to evidence how participation has shaped decisions and how that's informed service improvements and on new developments. So this means participation is no longer something that's happening informally or inconsistently. It's now embedded, systematic, central to how we design and evaluate our provision. This is an area that was repeatedly highlighted by schools and families as an improvement, and it reflects a genuinely rights-based approach.
Thank you. Councillor Kellard.
Yeah, thank you. Really great answer. Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright, thank you for overseeing the development of this strategy, but also can you pass our thanks on to the education team in the process of developing this. And we're well aware that in the midst of responding, and so many of them have been involved in the aftermath of Storm Claudia, education has been preparing for our Eston visit next week.
Thank you, Leader. I think all of our thanks should go to that team and not to me.
Fair enough, Councillor Wright. So I will now bring in Councillor John, because I believe you have a question to ask.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and Councillor Wright, thank you for the report, and thanks to all the officers who've worked on this. I might have missed it amongst the 600 pages of reports for today's meeting, but how many out-of-county placements do we have currently, and to what extent do you see this figure reducing as we go forward?
Thank you, Councillor John. So in September this year, the number of pupils in out-of-county specialist or independent places was 34. So Monmouthshire has a really effective specialist resource-based provision, model of provision. And this has resulted in a significant decrease in placements in out-of-county independent special schools. And this was reduced from 130 in the academic year 2022-23 to just 34 now. As part of our inclusion strategy and our approach to educating pupils with complex additional learning needs, we are have added and are continuing to add capacity to our specialist resource spaces. Notably, the development of King Henry VIII 3 to 19 school, an additional class at Pembroke Primary School in September 24, a new satellite SRB in Castle Park Primary School, which opened this month. So we will continue to use thorough statutory additional learning need provision reviews to identify any insufficiencies in our specialist provision, along with robust processes and systems that allow for the forecasting of need and capacity. As required, then we can add further capacity to our established SRB model to meet increasingly complex and varied additional learning needs of children and young people. So to what extent do I see this figure reducing? I'm not sure, but I wouldn't anticipate the figure for out-of-county placements rising because of the investment we've made into improving capacity in our SLBs. Does that answer your question, Councillor John?
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wright. We really have one recommendation, and that we provide our feedback and give permission for publication and wider dissemination. I think we have done that through our feedback. Please go ahead, Councillor Wright. And now bring us on to an eagerly awaited report, the Monmouthshire car parking review. Councillor Griffiths.
Thanks very much. I'm pleased to hear you've been so eager to receive the report. The recommendations of the report are just twofold. One, to agree a series of recommendations, a series of objectives, sorry, which are set out in paragraph 3.7, objectives that you might have, we might have, in providing provision for car parks in the county. Interestingly, these objectives have not come from the most recent Atkins report, but from a Capita study in 2020. And I am recommending that we confirm these objectives because I believe that they are still relevant. But also, and this is what I want to bring to your attention, so that we recognise that these objectives will, on occasions, conflict with each other, and that we will have to make choices and compromises in any of our parking arrangements. So on occasions, for instance, the argument will be rehearsed that if you want to support the local economy, then one way of doing that is to provide ever larger car parks at ever reduced cost. But if the end result of that is that you encourage further reliance on cars, then you might be increasing the congestion that actually restricts the development of towns. So choices have to be made, compromises will have to be made. That's the first recommendation, to confirm those objectives set out in 3.7. The second recommendation is that we move on from what has been a county-wide review of our parking arrangements, build on that to commission town-by-town reviews. I think the recognition here is that there probably aren't county-wide solutions, that we need to look at each individual town in order to find different ways forward. And that in undertaking those town-by-town reviews, we may not choose, we probably will not choose, to rely on the services of an external consultancy, but we will rely on the experience and the expertise from our own internal staff, from those who work in our towns, town councillors, town council staff, local stakeholders, in actually to organise that town-by-town review. So those are the two recommendations, and I commend them to you.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Cabinet, do you have any questions or observations? If I could bring you in, Councillor John, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. And I have been eagerly awaiting this report. In fact, I think every single year for the last 4 years, we've been waiting for this report to come forward. And now we've got it. The main recommendation seems to be we're going to do another review. Just feels like you're kicking the can down the road again. So how much did this review cost? Given that it's taken nearly 4 years, how on earth is that money well spent when you're now going to do a series of other reviews? This has been a complete waste of public money, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor John. The cost has been £28,000. I want to put that on the public record. The gain that we get from what was commissioned was a county-wide report, and what we've learned from that is that there are no county-wide solutions. What we've also gained is a more thorough collation and analysis of the data relating to the use of our car parks. So that's there, it's banked, it'll be available for the town-by-town studies. I think it is useful learning, and it's learning that I've had in many parts of my role over the last 3 years, that county-wide solutions in a county like Monmouthshire may be something of a fool's gold, that one actually should look at our problems community by community, town by town, and be willing to look for the mechanism of developing that local analysis, that local consensus, wherever we can. It's for that reason, it's an opportunity for me to put this on the record, that we've, since COVID as a county, been seeking to engage our business community on a county-wide basis with an organisation called the Business Resilience Forum, which was established during COVID. I want to take that forward. I want to build on it, but I want to do it by actually ensuring that town by town, we bring together ourselves, officers, county councillors, our town councils, our business communities, town by town, into a shared forum where we can look at things like placemaking, look at things like, in this context of this report, the parking arrangements for that town. So that's how I want to take it forward. I want to take it forward because I've learned from this exercise that county-wide solutions are not obviously available. We look at them town by town. We rely less on consultants and rely more on the experience of ourselves, our elected members, and our local stakeholders in developing those solutions. So I think for 28,000, some valuable learning has taken place.
Sounds like an expensive lesson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John. We have 2 recommendations from this report. Agree the strategic objectives for the Council's parking strategy as set out in paragraphs 3.7 and 3.8, and agree the proposed Monmouthshire County Council actions in response to the recommendations made in the Monmouthshire Parking Review as set out in Table 1. Councillor Griffiths, agreed? You'd
I
hope.
agree. Yes, I agree.
Councillor Wright, I take that snap means yes. Councillor Birch.
Yes.
Councillor Sandals.
Yes.
Councillor Maybe.
Definitely.
Councillor Chandler. You're becoming
Agreed.
gloomier, Councillor Chandler.
It's dark out here. No, I agree.
Councillor Callard.
I agree.
Thank you. I will then move us on to the final item on the agenda. It may be last but not least, and Councillor Birch, it's Monmouthshire's Destination Management Plan.
Thank you, Leader. I hope not least, I'm very glad to present this to you today. I think it's another long-awaited piece of work. The final version of the Monmouthshire Destination Management Plan for 2025-2030. But Anion Limited was commissioned in August 2024 to review and renew the strategic plan which drives tourism development, management and marketing of the destination. And Mari Stevens and her colleagues have brought their considerable global knowledge of how sustainable tourism destinations can develop and thrive to bear in developing a plan which I think moves us beyond Monmouth's traditional image of countryside and castles to a more dynamic and contemporary brand, recognising the unique quality of each settlement. So the plan identifies a wide range of wealth and well-being benefits as strategic objectives to grow business, resident and visitor satisfaction with the destination, to ensure tourism works for everyone in Monmouthshire. And those are economic growth, improved infrastructure, vibrant culture, enhanced experiences and environmental protection. And 3 key priorities are identified for achieving those strategic objectives, which are aligned with Visit Wales core product themes and which inform proposed product and marketing priorities, which are revitalising the county's characterful towns and villages through high quality tourism, reigniting Monmouthshire's natural landscapes with activity and adventure in ways that are sensitive and creative, developing imaginative experiences with a distinctive sense of place that enrich our quality of life. And all 3 priorities aim to drive a more vibrant and youthful place brand designed to support the Council's vision to ensure Monmouthshire's communities are socially and economically sustainable by attracting and retaining younger people to rebalance the county's ageing demographic. And all of those experiences are being held together with a Monmouthshire made value proposition, celebrating Monmouthshire's unique sense of place and creative energy. The 6 drivers of growth are highlighted in the plan, 3 of which, seasonality, spend and spread, are taken from Welsh Government's tourism strategy, with 3 additional drivers specific to Monmouthshire: stand out, stay and sense of place, with 4 enablers of delivery identified as partnership marketing, strong support structures, sustainable and inclusive delivery, and creativity and innovation. Because I think we have to acknowledge that tourism is important in Monmouthshire. In 2024, 2.28 million visitors came to Monmouthshire, spending £3.53 million. Spending 3.53 million visitor days in the county and generating more than £352 million benefit for the local economy, and supporting 3,422 full-time equivalent jobs, which is approximately 15% of Monmouthshire jobs. And 78% of the economic impact of tourism comes from staying visitors, rather than those who visit us for the day. And there's been strong and sustained growth in tourism in Monmouthshire over the last 10 years, with a 28% real terms increase in the value of tourism since 2015. I'm pleased to say Monmouthshire recovered faster from the pandemic than other parts of the South East Wales region, and has significantly outperformed region-wide growth levels over that same period. Visitors don't just spend in their accommodation, they spend in shops, in restaurants and cafes, and they attend festivals, underpinning the prosperity of our high streets and much of our cultural sector. Crucially, this is a whole authority plan and not just a plan for our tourism team. The visitor experience is shaped by everything we do as an authority, from car parking, toilets and the public realm, rights of way and cultural activities, through to planning decisions and business support. And many of the things that make Monmouthshire a great place to live also make the county a great place to visit, and vice versa. There are strong links with our placemaking plans and with the emerging cultural strategy, as well as nature and biodiversity strategies. And tourism, of course, is a central plank of our economy. The plan has been shaped by in-depth research and engagement with our partners in the local tourist industry, 96 stakeholders in total. I'd like to thank all of them for getting involved. I hope many of them will continue their involvement as we move into the delivery phase. I would also like to thank the members of the Place Scrutiny Committee for their constructive feedback on the plan. As a result of the scrutiny meeting, we've strengthened the emphasis on Welsh identity and language in the document and made a number of other changes to the final document. And where suggested changes have not been made, the reasons have been fully explained. Our next step is to establish the Monmouthshire Destination Partnership as the strategic group which will deliver the action plan in collaboration with our towns and the sector. But as always, resources may remain an issue. This is an ambitious plan aimed at drawing in public and private investment into tourism in Monmouthshire, which can only be delivered through effective collaboration. Ours is a supporting role. Lastly, I know that you'll all want me to join me in wishing the report author, Nicola Edwards, our destination manager, well in her retirement. Nicola has worked for Monmouthshire Council for 26 years and has been tireless in supporting Monmouthshire's tourism sector and raising the county's profile. I think, without respect to her very able job share partner, Kevin Ford, who will take over the role, I think it's fair to say that for our partners and local tourism business owners, Nicola is Monmouthshire tourism, and I know she'll be greatly missed. Nicola has led on the development of this strategy, and I hope we can endorse it today with our thanks to her, the team, and all involved.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. It's so important, isn't it, that Monmouthshire is recognised as a destination more thoroughly than it is now. We know already that people see us as a destination, and I think the work that has been done by our team, but also with stakeholders across the county, has been hugely important. When I attended the Abergavenny Tourist Group's AGM recently, they were minded to tell me how pleased they were of the consultations that were going forward and the involvement that our small team has had with them. Obviously, there are anxieties for all sorts of reasons, but there was a sense of collaboration that they recognised was stronger than ever. Are there any observations or questions, Cabinet? Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Councillor Birch, could you outline how this new destination management plan will help to ensure that tourism growth in Monmouthshire directly benefits local communities? And I know you mentioned High Street, so I'm thinking particularly in terms of sustaining vibrant town centres and improving local infrastructure.
Thanks, that's all right. The plan really sets out an approach to marketing that's very much led by our towns as a base and as an experience in their own right, aimed at driving up the numbers staying in serviced accommodation, that's hotels, bed and breakfast, guest houses. So that benefits the town's independent shops, the eateries and the pubs. Of course, we want there always to be something going on, events like the Abergavenny Food Festival, the Tour of Britain, the concerts in Caldecott and Chepstow Castles, Monmouth Medieval Festival. They all bring people into the towns and to attract visitors. So even when people are primarily coming for experiences like a day out on the Wye Valley Walk or to walk the beacons, we want them to be staying locally and enjoying an evening out. Because increasingly people book accommodation based on social media and they book for an experience, for the vibe of a place. And if they have a good time, they then return. So good signage, parking and good communications are part of that positive experience. I know that's come through strongly in town placemaking plans, which will guide investment in infrastructure. Of course, on the other hand, we have areas that can get more visitors than the community and the location can handle, often also based on social media trends. And examples might be Skenfrith, Tintern or the Keeper's Pond, where we want to take a partnership approach with the community to manage numbers, putting in the infrastructure to make a visit safe and enjoyable, and think about how we can draw visitors away to other locations. For instance, a visit to Tintern Ironworks as well as the Abbey, for example. Because I think we've all been to places that were too crowded to enjoy or too crowded to live in, and that's not what we want for Monmouthshire. The plan sets out a vision for a sustainable tourism that works with local communities, not against them. Thank you, Councillor Birch.
Thank you. Councillor John, I believe you've got two questions. I've spotted them this time.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, can I associate myself with Councillor Birch's comments about Nicola and just to thank her for all she's done. What discussions have you had with Welsh Government on this? Because Welsh Government need to become more supportive of Monmouthshire tourism businesses who do not feel supported when it comes to business rates, the visitor levy, the 182-night rule. They feel they're constantly being hammered and the council really needs to speak up for them. So what discussions have you had about that?
Thanks, Councillor John. I think firstly, I'd reject the premise that the Welsh Government doesn't support tourism businesses. The work of Visit Wales, which Monmouthshire benefits from, does a great deal to promote Wales to a global tourism market and to UK-based visitors. And the Welsh Government also supports tourism through various financial schemes, including the £50 million Wales Tourism Investment Fund for capital investment and a recent £1.75 million grant fund for weatherproofing tourism businesses. And part of the role of our Monmouthshire tourism team is to help businesses access that kind of support and to fly the flag for Monmouthshire at international trade shows, where Visit Wales has a presence, most recently by attending the World Travel Market in London, one of the biggest global expos as part of the Southern Wales Partnership. So, as you know, the 182-night rule delineating when business rates apply to self-catered holiday accommodation and when they fall within council tax was brought in to clarify what is a second home with occasional lets and what's a genuine tourism business. And we've always been clear that the threshold is too high for even some well-established Monmouthshire accommodation providers in what is a seasonal market. We've made that point to Welsh Government ministers directly and through formal consultations as they arise and through the WLGA Rural Forum. And you may be aware that amendments to the detailed rules have been recently consulted on. And we've argued for a lower threshold, but welcome changes in rules that will give businesses certainty as to their costs year on year. I think that's that uncertainty is one of the major stressors for people running small businesses. But I do know it's also been a very difficult few years for many of our small tourism businesses. A lot of changing regulations still to come into force, and we will continue to support them. So, as you know, with regard to the tourism levy, we've been very clear that Monmouthshire will not be an early adopter of the levy, and that we will not even move to formal consultation within this administration. We want to fully understand the impact of the new tourism registration and standard schemes and other regulatory measures, as well as establishing a strong Monmouthshire destination partnership and looking at all options for funding the actions set out in the destination management plan. We want to understand the impacts, both good and ill, of the levy in other parts of Wales, and only then can a future administration make an informed decision about whether a tourism levy is right for Monmouthshire, which I do hope will be a decision taken with the sector collectively. If that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, do you think it's appropriate to promote tourism in Monmouthshire with TV series that have an age 18 rating on them?
I think it's appropriate to promote tourism in Monmouthshire, where a series which has won multiple awards and I think has many millions of visitors, many millions of viewers globally have chosen to watch it, and have therefore seen the Wye Valley for themselves, and some of them want to come and see it in person. I don't think that's an opportunity we can afford to ignore for the sake of our tourism businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Dropped off the call momentarily.
I wonder, Chair, if I can.
Yes, you can, Councillor Griffiths. I'm sorry I missed that because I dropped off the call momentarily. Something went wrong with my computer.
I just wanted to make a contribution as the Cabinet Member with responsibility for the Monmouthshire economy, of which, of course, tourism is a significant part, and that's one of my reflections I wanted to share. That we've got an economic strategy, and the economic strategy stresses the fact that our strength lies in our diversity. We are an economy which is characterised by our manufacturing, our advanced manufacturing, our research and development, characterised by our professional services of high quality, characterised by food production, food processing. It's that diversity which is our strength, and our tourism industry is a significant part of that diversity. And they reinforce each other. I think that's the point I want to make, that where we have a successful, high quality tourism offer, it is not uncommon to find that the person who has visited Monmouthshire is the person who in the years that follow may invest in Monmouthshire, and the two very much go together. And just my other thought is that the offer that we make is rightly seen, and you can see it in the report that we've got there, is an integrated offer. It's not that we have rural tourisms and urban tourists and urban tourists, or active tourists and sedentary tourists, or whatever. The offer is very often enjoyed because the person who actually wants an active experience is the same person who wants to stay in a vibrant town centre, which offers a good quality meal and offers a cultural experience at the same time. So these things, and I think this was a very good consultancy report, and what I got out of it and the way in which it developed was the way in which we were encouraged, and we're all encouraged as people around this table, tourist industries, to see the integration of the whole offer into a tourist experience. The fact that I think it is a good consultancy input that we've had into this is a reflection, I think, of Nicola's contribution, We get good quality reports, we get good quality consultancy input when we have high quality officer leadership and political leadership, Sarah, but officer leadership in this case. And that's what I think Nicola has provided here, and has no doubt provided throughout her 26 years with Monmouthshire, which I've appreciated as well.
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. That's an excellent point, and I think the loss through retirement of Nicola is huge, and it's not just felt by the council and her colleagues. Again, going back to that meeting in Abergavenny, it's felt by hospitality and tourism businesses across Monmouthshire. She has been the face of tourism and destination of Monmouthshire for many a long year, and this has been her swan song, I believe, Councillor Branch, and what a way to bow out. The recommendation is that we approve this management plan and the proposed partnership arrangements. I think from the tenor of the discussion, if you could in this instance wave your hands for those of us online. Nick, I believe that is unanimously passed. Very nice wave, Councillor Chandler, in the mist. It's like watching a film. I think that brings us to the end of this cabinet. Thank you very much. For those of us who are sitting in Shire Hall, I can tell you we're ready to get some thermals and to find a heating source because we're very cold, and I suspect Councillor Chandler is as well. Good evening, everyone. I hope you have a good one. Could Cabinet stay on briefly, please?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.